with Alexey Muraviev, an Associate Professor of National Security and Strategic Studies at Curtin University. He joins us now from Perth in Australia. Welcome back to the program, Alexey. Let's start with Zaporizhzhia. Russia is continuing to maintain a military presence at the nuclear plant despite repeated warnings that it might be compromising its safety. What's Moscow's interest in the facility?
Well, it's the strategically important asset. It's something that Russia obviously was targeting right from the start of its offensive. It's something that would allow the Russians to utilize for the territories that it has already captured. Obviously, the Russians are planning to make it part of its integrated power grid system, and obviously that represents a bargaining chip in their negotiations with Ukraine, because clearly they're using the continuous shelling of the nuclear power station as a justification to, as your report suggested, to suspend the export of electricity to the Ukrainian-controlled territories. And if the Russians will continue to do that, well, it would put certainly Ukraine into a new array of problems, given the fact that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant is the largest operational nuclear power station in Ukraine, responsible for some 20, if not more, percent of the total electricity of generating total electricity that Ukraine consumes.
Yes, and the UN has called on Russian forces to withdraw from the Zaporizhzhia plant. It's also called on Ukraine not to move in its military personnel if that happens. What will it take for Moscow to heed those calls to withdraw from the facility?
Look, I mean, there are two issues here. First is the issue of trust. I don't think the Russians have any trust or confidence in the Ukrainians. I mean, there is a lot of chatter in Russia about that we, as the Russians, made unilateral concessions and withdrew our forces from Kiev back in late March, early April, in hope that somehow that would allow the facilitation of the political dialogue. In fact, we've got nothing in return. So, in this sense, I don't think the Russians will move their forces out, because they will have no confidence that the Ukrainians would not use the opportunity to recapture the strategically important asset. And if Putin's government decides to make this yet another gesture of goodwill, as they've been describing a number of those gestures, it will not go down well in Russia. I think Putin is now walking a very fine line with its own electorate, which he worked very hard to mobilize. And if he's going to effectively bail to the demands of the international community, it would be considered as the sign of weakness, first of all by the Ukrainians, but certainly by his own electorate. And I think that may be detrimental to his not only re-election chances in 2024, but for him to stay in power right now. So I think under these circumstances, I'll be really surprised if the Russians will make such a move, because it won't work in their favor.
Okay, Alexey Muraviev, we'll have to leave it there, but great to get your analysis as always. Thank you.
Thank you.